This is our next project. This is a 26-inch hybrid fitness bike. It is a Next Avalon. Nice little purple and white. They're still selling these out Walmart, but I actually picked this up on the side of the road during trash day. Paid $0 for it, obviously. It was free. Came with a kid seat on the back, which I've already taken off. But other than it being dusty and just in need of a deep cleaning, it's in pretty good shape. In fact, too, let me show you the shifting here. I was surprised to see that it was still shifting fine. I was expecting to have to change all the cables. So a little hesitation. Nothing we can't fix with some adjustments here. But really nice. I'll stop it here. The tires are on backwards. I could tell by the tread. But it's a really clean bike, and you have the adjustability up here on the stem to get your height right for your hands. And then also the seat's a quick release, so it's pretty easy to work with. And then it has suspension on the front. They market it as a full suspension because of the spring here in the back. You know, take that with what you want, but it is still pretty comfortable, and I've worked on these before, so gonna tear it apart, put some new cables on it, probably just do the shift cable while we're at it, just to give us some peace of mind. But another thing I wanted to call out here is there's a good length of housing. It goes all the way down, stops here, comes out here again, and then you're covered. And I really like that. I used to not like working on bikes like that just because it's a little extra cost to fix. Or replace, I should say. But really, the only exposed part of that cable is right there. So it'll stay nice and solid for a while. As always, we're going to start with the chain first. I'm going to examine it to see if there's a quick link, which there isn't. Chain's in pretty decent shape. There's some surface rust. And as always, what we'll do is after we clean and re-lubricate it, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on it when I go for a test ride, and if it breaks, then we'll replace it. But if not, there's no need to. So we'll overload it, probably more than what any other person is going to put on it, and then if it breaks, then we'll replace it. So there's really no need to do it otherwise, simply because it's another $12 to $15 expense, and you really don't need to do it. So get this taken off. Now we're going to do the back wheel. Take my bone tool here, as I call it. Get that going. And then this other side, there's a kickstand. I don't know if you can see it. Can't really use the bone tool for that. I'm going to come in with an adjustable wrench and then just get it started. And then it'll come out just like that. Do the same down here at the front. Get the right size. Get the little hangers, so I gotta come out a little bit more. Probably helps to release the brake. Dork. There we go. So with the wheels off, I'm going to show you, I believe I mentioned this earlier, but the tires are installed backwards. So you can see the direction arrow here is pointing that way, but that would be freewheeling because that'd be going in reverse. So both the front and the rear were installed incorrectly, so we'll get that fixed. And then on top of that, you see this a lot, especially with bikes you pick up on like OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace. This is the liner that protects the tube inside here from hitting the ends of the spokes. So if the tube inflated, as you're rolling, it could hit that and puncture the tube because it's sharp. And so you could see it. You can just take this off here. This protects the tube from the spokes in there. This is old, so we're gonna get rid of that. We'll replace it. Actually feels pretty good on both axles. I checked the rear already, but yeah, so whenever you replace it, make sure you get the tires in the right direction and that you're also installing the protection layer here. Even if you're using just electrical tape, something is better than nothing. So while we got the wheel taken apart, we're going to take off the freewheel. Luckily this one wasn't stuck on too hard. And a couple unfortunate things. First is that my ultrasonic cleaner broke, so I need to order a new one. Second is that this style of freewheel has this weird lock on the top, and so I can't do anything with it. I've tried removing them in the past, I haven't had much luck. So what I'm going to do is just clean around the races in here and here as best I can, and then use a oil to lubricate it, and that's about as best as we could do. I'll show you here, got it cleaned up pretty well on both sides, and I'm just going to use this multi-use synthetic oil. It's pretty thick, and I'm going to just put it around the edges here, trying to film and then keep that going, and then I'm just going to work it in. This freewheel already felt pretty good, so this is just more preventative than anything. And if I was going to keep this bike as my own, I would just invest the money in buying a new freewheel and a new chain at the same time. You can get a freewheel from Amazon. This is a 7-speed, and I mean, you could get them on sale for pretty cheap, but expect to spend $15 to $25 depending on the type you're getting. And the chain, same thing. I just ordered several new 6-7 speed chains. I think I only paid $8 because they're on sale right now. But that's about as best as we can do with this without somehow taking it apart. The other ones I've done, you could just take the face off and then rebuild it, and I've done that in several videos, but these types, I guess they're not meant to be serviced. So if you know how to do it, drop a comment and let me know. I'm assuming it's either a specialized tool or you have to mount it somewhere and then knock this off using like a flathead screwdriver or some sort of a, again, special tool. But for what this does, it's not bad. And you also got to remember too, you're not freewheeling most of the time. Most of the time the bearings and everything in here are all going the same direction, and so the lubricant isn't as important in that scenario. Only when you're freewheeling does it make a difference to it wearing out. But yeah, if it was my personal bike, like I said, I would just replace it and the chain, but this is what we can do right now. Another little thing you should be doing is adding a little bit of grease to the threads. In this case, I'm just using like a general purpose park tool grease. And the reason you want to do that is so that it doesn't seize to the hub, and it'll make your life easier, or the bike mechanic's life easier, when they have to go to pull it off. So making sure I'm not cross-threaded here. I'm going to get it on pretty tight. You don't need to, but you can if you want to put the tool back on and tighten it. Once you pedal that first time, you'll definitely secure it. Next, what we're going to do is work on the bottom bracket. It's smooth, not feeling anything crunching, but that's the problem. It's a little too tight. So we're going to just take it fully apart, re-grease it, and make sure it's good to go. I think this is one of the biggest reasons why people get frustrated with their bikes, or they feel like it's, you know, tough to use, is it's either over tightened or some other factor here at the bottom bracket, and they're just spending a ton of energy trying to get it to move. So I've already taken off the caps, obviously the chain guard. I'm gonna go get the crank puller and let's get this arm taken off. All right, so I got the center bolt taken out here, and then this is the crank puller. And the way this works is this threads in here where that cover is. And then once that's threaded in, we will tighten this part. And you can see here in the middle, take a second here. It'll come through, and what this does is it's pushing against the actual bottom bracket, and then that'll pull it off. So I'm going to get it started here, and it's important not to cross thread it. So I'm going to get it in, and then I'm going to tighten it. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull this in by hand because it's going to be quite a few threads because I was showing you there. And now we have it on, so I'm going to take my adjustable wrench here. It's a little tight. Might have to get a cheater bar to get a larger wrench. Still not moving though. Whew, a little scary. There we go. Yeah, dry. So you should be putting a little bit of lubricant here, like a grease, so that this doesn't happen. With both pedals removed, now we can work on the bottom bracket. So there's this lock ring here, and I've already loosened it. You just use, this is a lock ring tool. Get it loosened. And this is just to help hold the actual cup here in place. And then the cup, this is what determines basically how freely or not your pedals move. And I can tell you, like right now, I'm struggling to move it. So it is definitely over tightened. So I'm just gonna take this wrench here. I'm gonna try and break it loose. Kind of looks like there's a little bit of corrosion here. There we go. Sorry, I'm blocking you. Come back here, show you. And now it's too loose. It's moving freely, which is fine because we're just going to take it all the way apart. But if you were doing just a simple adjustment, you would take your lock ring off a little bit. And if it was too tight, you would loosen the cup, get it to where it needs to be, retighten everything, and then test it. I'm just going to pull this off. And we're going to check. And you can see there's old grease on here. So that's why it felt smooth. But we're going to re-grease the whole thing, clean this up, and then get the tension right. All right, so I've cleaned up the threads here. Got this re-greased. This side gets a little bit more because I didn't take the fixed cup off. And then inside here, I've repacked this bearing as well. And then I've put a little bit of the grease here around the threads so that the next person who has to work on this or decides to work on this doesn't have as hard of a time as I did. Okay, it took a second. Again, fighting the camera, working around it. So I'm going to get this on. And I'm going to get it basically hand tight. I'm going to check it. Feels okay. I'm going to come off just a little bit. I'm going to wiggle it. Now, if you feel it moving, it's not where it needs to be. I'm going to go back just a little more. That's about where I want it. And then now, I'm going to take the lock ring. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to try and do all this without moving the cup, which I just put on. Okay, so that's about where I want it. And then now, I'm going to hold the cup while I have the lock ring tool on. And I'm struggling here again because of the camera. Hold it. And get it tightened. So we're going to test it again. No movement. Moving pretty freely. So I'm going to wipe some of this grease here onto the square end, and I'll do the same on the other side, and we'll reinstall the pedals and do our spin test. All right, we got everything put back together. Now we're going to do our spin test. Magnitude's different. Feels really smooth, no movement. So this will be good to go. And like I said earlier, I definitely think this, amongst a couple other things, is probably why a lot of people don't like cycling, because they feel either they're not fit enough or there's something wrong with the bike. And in cases like this, there was. So we worked on the bottom bracket. I've reinstalled the chain after it was cleaned. I used just a vinegar bath and some scrubbing with the wire brush. And then I've done the back brake, just show you here. Nice and solid. So what we're going to do now is my favorite part, which is tuning. So I'm going to get you set up here. And Shifters in the highest gear up front, so all the way forward. Cable is not attached. And what we're doing here is to check that the chain does not go up or fall off. And if it did, then our resolution would be to use the limiting screws here, which limit both the direction this way and inwards towards the spokes here, in terms of how far the derailleur can move. So if it was falling off, I want to use the low or the high limiting screw, excuse me, and tighten it to push the cage back over. And if it was in the second gear here instead of the first one, what we would do is loosen that limiting screw and bring it back. Now, if neither of those fix it, you're going to want to check and make sure that your cage is straight. In this case, there's no derailleur hanger, so if your derailleur is still messed up at that point, you're gonna want to probably just replace it, because this arm probably got bent, fell down, or something else otherwise happened. So all that is set. I've adjusted the barrel adjuster here to where we can go in or out if we need to. And what I'm going to do now is just reattach the cable so that we could start indexing. All right, so we're going to reattach the cable here. Make sure I get in here and actually attach it. So there's a little channel you want to put that cable through. And then I'm tightening it, but I'm trying not to add any tension to the cable, because if we need to adjust it, we can just use the barrel adjuster. So I got that set. Now we're going to start shifting. Okay. And so what happened was I went to shift, and there's now a bunch of slack in the system. You can see it here. So I need to pull that slack out. So there we go, pulled it out. And that happened because I took the housing off to put the new cable in, and it obviously needed to resettle. So let's try again. Up one, and it went, but there's a little hesitation, so let's do that again. Up one, and you could hear it clicking. So what's happening is we shifted, zoom in here for you, we shifted, but not enough for the cage to go all the way and make the chain go up. So we'll shift, and it made it again. So I'm going to loosen the barrel adjuster, which adds tension. Go back down, we'll do it again. That was better. We'll go one more, and again, and again. Still a little bit of hesitation. And add just a little more. You could hear it. This whole system's still settling, it sounds like. Go again. Go down. Alright, so the gears are working pretty well. So now we're going to do our spin test. It's looking pretty good. Do the same with the front wheel. Still got to do the brake up there. But spinning pretty well. Then we'll do the brakes. It's looking pretty good. All right, so this is what it looks like all done. It's the exact same as it was when we started, except now it's cleaner. It's got fresh grease, a couple new cables on it, and it's been gone through to do the safety checks and stuff. So probably better than new, in my opinion, even though it's a little beat up on the paint in a couple spots and the decals are falling off. But pretty good hybrid fitness bike. The dual suspension on it makes it quite comfortable. 1x7 drivetrain. I mean, you're not going to do any big hills on it, up or down, hopefully. But it'll get you around town, and it'll keep you clean, too, with the chain guard and everything else, depending on what you're riding in. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Good Ones Recycling.